All right, welcome everybody to the New School and Old School show. I'm Nick Van Noort, and I have with me Craig Morgan. Craig, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the people?
Thank you, Nick. My name is Craig Morgan. I'm a certified financial planner and founder of Dorado Financial Planning Services, a level fee only planning firm whose mission is to lower and simplify the cost barrier to individuals for comprehensive financial planning and investment management.
That was very nice. Thank you, Craig. So today on the show, what we're going to go over is Craig's been sending out an article to all of his clients that go over several things that you should really think about doing, tips, if you will, for economic contractions, recessions. And so today we've chosen a few of those that we're going to go over. Anybody that's interested in that article, the link is in the show description. Please feel free to go ahead and go click on that and get the article. So to get us kicked off today, Craig, the first thing that we were going to talk about is one of those tips is increase your income. So when things are starting to tighten and things are starting to contract, why is it that people should focus on increasing their income?
Well, it's one thing that so many people don't even think about. One of the things that people forget to do is go in for their 6 month or 12-month review with their boss to see about getting a raise. I had a friend just the other day. They went in, they came up, they were going, oh my gosh, inflation is going up. I need, increase my income. How can I do that? I said, go in. It's time for your 90-day review. And he went and got a $2 raise, which of course helped him. It's an easy thing, but it is one of the things that we kind of put off because everybody's kind of afraid, oh my gosh, what'll happen if I ask for a raise? But with the great resignation that happened this year, and companies are looking to hire people, but one thing they don't want to do is they don't want to lose people because it costs more to train those individuals. So just be prepared. Go in, talk to your boss, and see about a raise. That's one of the easiest things. One of the other things is starting a side hustle. A lot of people talk about that. Some people will do different type of businesses on the internet, just like we're doing right now and doing our webinar. But for current retirees, especially those that are living on a fixed income, post-retirement employment is one of the best employment enhancing options for many retirees. And it is something that a lot of people over the age of 65 who have retired are now thinking about doing. And of course, the third thing is if you're 65, doesn't mean you have to retire, or 62. Some people are postponing retirement. The nice thing about that is, if you were planning to retire at 62, if you wait, to age 66 or 67, you can have a 30% increase in the amount of income that you could generate at retirement. So those are just a few of the small things you can think about and how to increase your income.
Explain that one, the 30% increase to the income that you can generate.
Well, right now, if you retire early on your Social Security, you get discounted from your full retirement amount. So if your full retirement amount is supposed to be at age 67 and you retire at 62, you will only receive 70% of that full retirement benefit that you would get at 67.
Oh, so
The
your
other
Social
thing,
Security payout.
your Social Security payout, correct. If you postpone and this is a strategy to look at, if you postpone receiving your Social Security, until age 70, you actually receive approximately 8% increase every year over your full retirement amount that you're supposed to receive at age 67.
Yeah, and that would make a pretty substantial difference for a lot of people, I would imagine.
It does. It makes a big difference.
And then on the other side of that, for the younger portion of our crowd that's watching, some of the other things that I always like to talk to people about helping them increase their income is Craig had also mentioned starting a side hustle or starting up another business. Well, one of the things that we have going for us that a lot of people I think take for granted or don't think enough about is it's about the easiest time that it's ever been to create a new business. Um, and primarily because the technology that we have that allows us to do that, it allows us to truly have side hustles, if you will. It allows us to truly find those extra hours that we're not necessarily being particularly productive and then become productive with them. Because maybe in the past, yeah, it wasn't really feasible to work your job in the factory all day and then you're also running your shoe store on the side. That's probably not what wasn't really possible. But this day and age, because of everything that we're able to do on the internet, because of all the different things, and I know a lot of the people watching this are people that are working remotely anyway. So they don't even have to go to a different location to work on their side business. It's literally the same desk they're sitting at right now watching this. So yeah, that's one of the things that I would suggest to anybody, whether you're younger, whether you're in your prime working years, pretty much anybody short of retirement, that there's always ways to increase your income above what you're currently making. And I mean, this is great to focus on during an economic downturn, but this is also just one of those things that's great just to focus on just in general.
Uh,
Okay, number 2, don't stop investing. Hey, Craig, in times like this, why is it important to make sure you stay on that course and don't stop your investments?
One of the best ways of investing is dollar cost averaging. And that is where you continue to put in the same amount of money into the same investments,
Mm-hmm.
okay, month after month. This is not a time to say, I'm going to stop investing. Okay? Only reason you should stop investing is if you have emergencies that may come up, medical, health, you know, children, family, that yes, you have to do that because you may not have built up, which we will talk about later, a large enough emergency fund that you can go in and get the money from. So again, continue the investing, don't stop. Okay, I just had a client just a couple of days ago. He called me up and said, "Hey, Craig, I'm going to jump off a bridge. Market's down 18, 20%. What am I going to do?" And I said, "Keep investing. Don't worry about it. Over the long term, you will come out ahead." Okay. I saw it in 08. I saw it in 74. I've been doing this a long time now. So keep the money invested, because the same thing that if you pull out now, the same type of mentality will keep you from going back in, and the market will keep rising and rising before you ever go back into the market again. So dollar cost average, keep investing, and we'll talk later about the importance of an emergency fund.
I could not agree with you more on that. That nothing that ever happens in the market should ever affect your investing. You should never be so scared of what's going on in the market that you're going to stop investing. As you pointed out, if your life situation changes, that is a whole different thing. That's a different conversation to be had. But just because the market is doing whatever the market's doing, it should not affect in one way or another if you continue to invest. Keep investing. All right, and the third point today, postpone major purchases. Hey, Craig, what is a major purchase and why should they postpone it?
Well, a major purchase is, I'm going to go out and buy a Tesla tomorrow. Okay. That's a major purchase. Um, that is something that the car I have is only 3 years old, but I want to go out and spend $80,000 on something. Maybe a major purchase is, I was going to take a trip over to Europe with my wife. We are going to spend 3 weeks over there. This may not be the best time. I may postpone that. Okay. Because I want to I want to continue investing in the market.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That is very important. I want to increase my emergency fund, which we'll talk about later. Okay. Because I want to make sure that I keep enough cash on hand. If something happens, I can be able to pay cash for it. Okay. So postponing major purchases like that's not postponing or paying off, expenses, that your monthly expenses, saying, "Oh, I won't pay my electricity this month." No, we're not saying that. These are luxury items. These are items that you can do without at this time.
Hey,
Okay,
I live
that's all
in
we're saying.
Vegas in the summer. I mean, your electric bill can be a fairly major expense sometimes.
Yes. And here in Colorado Springs, we just have to open up the window and it cools down the house. That's it.
Yeah,
Great place to live.
yeah, sounds nice.
Come to the mountains. It's nice. But no, keeping more cash on hand, postponing major expenses, that's an important, and it's honestly, of all the things we talk about, is one of the simplest things to do.
Sure.
Okay. Like I said, I'm not going to go out and buy. We had one major purchase in my household. We had to replace our oven. Great. Okay. I didn't want to, but we had to. It turns up, it just wasn't replace the oven. It was coming up and saying, oh, wow, you have a 30 amp run to this and it takes a 40.
Hmm.
I had to run all new wiring. That wound up costing a lot more money.
There's always those
So,
surprise expenses that come along with most of these major
yeah.
purchases.
So the other things that we wanted to do and do some changes, we said, you know what, we're not doing it this year. So we wanted to put in new sliding glass doors downstairs or a new window. I said, you know what, we'll wait till next year to do that. That's going to be our major purchase that we had to do instead of going into my cash supply and taking money out. I want to keep it.
Right. And you made a good point right there about when we're talking about postponing major purchases, we're talking about the things that you can postpone. So, for example, I guess you could argue how important is an oven or isn't an oven, but that's usually not one of those things you can really postpone. Like you need to eat. Um, but so, and because Craig was in the spot where his oven stopped working, so he had to replace it, it wasn't just that, oh, well, I found an oven that has more buttons on it than the one I currently have, so let's swap that out.
Right.
So yeah, it's putting off the things that you can. One of the things that I talk a lot to people about, and this kind of hits that, is there's the difference between when it comes to finances, what is emotionally correct and what is mathematically correct. So Craig was talking a lot about kind of the mathematically correct side on it, like, hey, you want more numbers in your bank account than less when things are starting to tighten. Well, this also hits the emotionally correct side of things too, where it's just we've all been in the situation, regardless if we try not to be, where been hit with some level of buyer's remorse for buying something that we then decided, maybe we shouldn't have. So in a situation where you're worried about contractions, you're worried about, hey, how is this going to affect my employer? How is this going to possibly affect my income? That you don't want to put yourself in a place where you're going to add more financial stress that you don't have to add. So if these are things that you can just push off to the future and it doesn't actually really affect your life, it's not something that's a necessity, then yeah, we're always going to recommend push that off to the future in times like this, that it helps you know that you're more stable. In other times, it just helps you evaluate whether or not you really want to buy that thing to start with, right? That way you're also not impulse shopping for major purchases.
Nick, will a new pickleball paddle, does that count as a major purchase
I
or
did,
something that I really need to
that
have?
absolutely depends on what those things cost. I know what tennis rackets cost, and sometimes those can count as major purchases. So
But I want it. I need a new one. Okay. Sean Benz came out with a new paddle. I want that. Okay.
just get a piece of plywood, you'd be fine. Um,
No.
okay, number 4 is something that seems like should be obvious, but we're going to dive into it a little deeper as well. Avoid using debt. So when things are tightening and you're worried about recessions and you're worried about those sorts of things, um, Craig, why is it important to not keep running up that credit card bill and not taking on additional debt that you didn't have previously?
Well, this goes back to the first thing we talked about, increasing your income. So many people nowadays, because of inflation, okay, we're seeing prices go up. This has hurt many of the Gen Z and millennials in that they are continuing to buy those major purchases. They're continue to buy luxury items, and the only way they can do it has been to be using credit cards. I think the Gen Z uh, group of individuals and millennials from the second quarter increased their debt by 30% on credit cards.
Oh, wow.
Huge amount. Thing with credit cards, when you use those, is that they are usually tied to the Fed funds rate, so that our prime. So as the Fed funds rate increases, your cost increases. So all of a sudden, the amount that you're going to have to pay increases over time. Uh, a lot of people, what happens is they increase their debt. So what do? They come up and they stop number two, which we talked about, is don't stop investing
Mm-hmm.
because they have this extra debt and they have to pay more down on the credit cards. Their monthly expenses increases. So they take away from their investing into their 401k. So all of this, again, you see how all of these tied together with postponing major purchases or luxury items. It winds up here right under, debt. Do not increase your debt right now. This is not a time to do that.
Right. Um, yeah, just to elaborate a little bit on that, yeah, I completely agree that what I think is the big problem with adding debt, and again, not just in recessionary times, but in all times, is that increases your monthly bills, right? So then that increases what you're going to owe monthly. So if we're already in a spot where you're worried about, am I able to save enough? Am I still investing enough? Is my income high enough? That the last thing you want to do is increase your bills, which again are going to make it more stressful for you, make it seem harder to be able to accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish and kind of stay on track with the things you're trying to do. I mean, everybody out there is in completely different situations. It does happen, yes, that sometimes something pops up and the only way that you have to cover that is by reaching for that credit card. But you should do that as infrequently as you possibly can. That should be, in times like this, that should absolutely be the kind of last case. Look for anything else you can to not have to charge that on the credit card. Obviously, first, just try not to need to spend that. Secondly, if you have to buy that, well, maybe you do have to dip into cash savings or things along those lines. But yeah, try to avoid using anything that is going to increase your monthly bills over times like this.
And then, this all ties in, I think, to our next issue that we're looking at, and that is converting variable debt to fixed debt. Uh, this is a time that if you had watched what happened during the 70s and early 80s, and you saw people had a lot of variable debt, and as the interest rates increased, their uh, mortgage payments or their credit cards increased dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the 70s, my first home was at 9%. The second home I built came with a 21% cost on the construction and a fixed rate of 13 and 7/8.
Yeah, I remember talking to my parents about the first house that they bought, and it was at, I think, 15.5%. And I mean, this would have been in the early 80s. Um,
Right.
but yeah, that as so in recessionary times, let's just, I mean, explain a little more about why it matters now more than in other times. So anytime that inflation is going up, what the normal response to that is the government is going to start to raise interest rates, which means that any debt you previously had would be at a lower interest rate than the debt that you're going to pick up in the future. So anytime that you have debt of some kind that is a variable rate, whether we're talking about credit cards or whether we're talking about adjustable rate mortgages or whatever those things are, as interest rates increase, they're likely going to adjust those rates higher on you. So if at times like this, if you're able to switch that from variable rate to fixed rate, as the interest rates continue to increase, your interest that you're paying is fixed. It won't increase on you. So it's another way to help your monthly expenses not continue to grow in times like this. Now, credit cards. Yes, there's a lot of people listening to this that are thinking, hey, what are you talking about? Like, my credit card rates are going to go up. They're already as high as they possibly can be. For most people out there, that is true. For most people out there, your credit card rates are already as high as they're legally allowed to charge you, which I think is like 29.9% or something like that. Is one of the things that as you're able to build wealth over time, one of the kind of side effects of that is people want to lend you more and more money. Well, as they want to lend you more and more money, you start to get more and more favorable rates on your credit cards. So those of you that are listening to us that are in that situation where you're like, I'm not paying 29% of my cards, I'm only paying 8% or 10%. Those are the people we're talking about. Those are the ones whose interest rates on your credit cards are going to start to increase. So just because you had really good rates on your credit cards previously, don't think for any reason they're not going to raise those on you as well because, I mean, any of these credit card companies, they're just out there to make money on you, right? So be very mindful of that. And so even people in that situation that think, oh, well, the balances I have on my credit cards, they're very manageable for my situation. Even those you might want to consider looking into what can you do to either just pay those off now so you don't have to deal with them anymore, or switch that into some sort of fixed rate setup as well. Just something to think about. Okay, and the final point we want to talk about today, number 6, continue to build your emergency fund. Craig, why is this absolutely so important? In fact, I would argue this might be the basis of any financial plan. Why is that emergency fund such an important thing?
I think is real simple. Cash gives you options. When you have an emergency fund, and we talk about 3 to 6 months, you know, if something dramatic happens to your family, hospital bills, appliances go out. Like I said, I had a huge oven go out. I had cash in my emergency fund that I could go to and say, you know what, I can take care of this. So it is very important that during this time, even with the market, how it has been, is to continue to put some money into your emergency fund.
Craig, I absolutely agree with you on that. The thing to remember through this whole thing is the market, the economy moves in cycles. So recessions don't last forever. So things are going to get bad, they're going to get good again. So your emergency fund is there just to make sure you're able to survive the bad times for when things get good again. Even if you were to lose your income during this time, even if it was to get bad enough that you lost your job, as long as you have an adequate emergency fund, your lifestyle doesn't have to change at all through this. And keep in mind that for a lot of people out there, even if you're in dual income households, both of those incomes are incredibly important. So you want to make sure that you have an adequate amount of cash savings sitting aside. All right, Craig, did you have any last minute points that you wanted to make across any of the things that we talked about today?
Yes, it's so important that if you're listening to this, talk to your advisor. Find out what is the best plan for you. Both Nick and I are certified financial planners. If you don't have a certified financial planner, please look for one. They are all trained to help you address all of these issues. And if you like what you have heard here today, hit the like button here, there. I'm not sure which side, but it's one of theirs. Please hit it. We will be doing these every week, hopefully multiple times. Come back. If you have any questions, please send us an email. If there's anything you would like for us to talk about that you have questions on, please send us to us. We will address those issues.
Well said, Craig. And yeah, just as a reminder, down in the description, there's also the link to the article that we've been talking about this whole time. Feel free to click on that so you can read it yourself. But otherwise, yeah, we look forward to being able to provide more information for you guys as time goes on. Thank you so much for your time today.